Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final session and gathering for the Manifesting the Sacred Masculine online course. I am Mercedes Kirkle, the guide and facilitator for this course, and I'm very excited about our meeting today and what we'll be doing because I am going to be channeling Yeshua and asking him the questions that all of you have submitted about the sacred masculine. So I'm really looking forward to this very much. I want to say a few brief things about how it's going to work, and then I want to go right into the channeling so we have as much time as possible with Yeshua. So before the channeling, I do a guided meditation for going into the fifth dimension. And many of you have done this with me already, so you're going to be familiar with the guided meditation, but a few of you may not have. The basics are that we're going to be visualizing a sphere of light above the crown of our head and then watching as it descends along our central channel, which is right where our chakras are, and it'll go down to the heart and then come to rest in the heart. And then we're going to use our intention to gather our etheric body, which is the same as our energy body, and draw it inside the sphere at the heart. And by the way, you don't need to remember any of this. I guide you through the whole thing step by step. I just like to give people a preview so they can relax more, and also if you have any questions, you can ask. So we'll be going inside the sphere of light in our heart, in our energy body, and then we're going to be traveling in the sphere, and we're going to travel outside our physical body, and we're met by Archangel Michael, who I call Archangel Michael, and he guides us up into the fifth dimension. And in the fifth dimension, we'll be going into a pyramid of light that's been prepared for our time together. I'll have a few more instructions once we're inside the pyramid of light. And then I will invite in Yeshua to come and join us and be with us. And he will take it from there and guide us. And I will be asking the questions that you all have submitted, and he'll be offering his responses. And at a certain point, he'll let us know when we're complete for today. And then at that point, I will we'll have a little time in silence for integrating what's been given. And then we will do a second guided meditation for returning back to the third dimension and reintegrating with our physical bodies. I ask that everyone stay for the entire process, and especially the second meditation of reintegrating back into the third dimension and back with our physical bodies. That reintegration is an important part of this process for safety in this kind of travel into other dimensions. So please do stay for the final reintegration. And then we'll share a final connection and goodbye. I'm so sad I can hardly say the words goodbye for this class and this group and this meeting, which I have enjoyed so much. So any questions about all of that before we begin? Okay. Then let's start. If anyone has a cell phone that needs turning off or anything like that, so there won't be disturbances, please do that at this time. Take just a minute for people to turn off their phones or other devices, and then we can begin. Okay. So for the guided meditation, I recommend that everyone be in a basic meditation posture, especially that your spine is comfortably straight. Once we get into the fifth dimension and into our pyramid of light, you can be in any position you want to be in. Make yourself comfortable. So let's begin with closing our eyes. And relaxing your belly, letting your breath drop all the way down into your pelvis. Relaxing your shoulders, allowing your chest and heart region to open. Relaxing the back of your neck and your jaw so that your head is balanced on the top of your spine. And relaxing all the muscles of the legs, especially the large muscles at the tops of the legs. So there's a feeling of connection between the soles of your feet and the crown of your head. And now placing your awareness in your heart, we're going to take several breaths to and from the heart as though you're breathing with your heart. Breathing in, and then exhale, and as you exhale, releasing anything you wish to let go of at this time before our channeling. And inhale from the heart, and exhale, release. And once more, inhale from the heart. Exhale, releasing anything you want to let go of. And then relaxing your breathing, letting it come and go on its own natural rhythm as you shift your focus to above the crown of your head, where you see, sense, or feel a sphere of light directly above your crown chakra. And we're going to follow this sphere of light as it slowly descends along the central channel right next to your spine. And we begin with the sphere of light moving down into your crown chakra. And then it continues to slowly descend, moving down into the inside of your skull and coming down to the level of your third eye. Moving lower to the level of the bridge of the nose. Tip of the nose. Mouth. Chin. And descending lower as it enters into the neck region. First the top of the neck. Center of the neck where your throat chakra is. Base of the neck. And moving lower still as it enters into the chest region. First the top of the chest. And then moving lower to the level of the thymus gland. And lower still to the level of the heart where it comes to rest at the very center of your heart. From this place at the center of your heart, see rays of light emanating out from the sphere in all directions, sending the colors, qualities, and virtues of our Mother, Father, God out to your whole self. And now using your intention, gather your etheric body, which is the same as your energy body, and draw it entirely inside the sphere of light at your heart. And with your energy body completely contained inside the sphere of light at your heart, we now begin to travel in the sphere of light. First, we move back through the portal at the back of the heart, and then continuing to move back and back until we're outside the physical body, at which point we are met by Archangel Michael, who guides us swiftly, safely, and directly up into the fifth dimension. As we arrive in the fifth dimension, we see a very large pyramid of light that has been specially prepared for our time together today. And we enter inside the pyramid of light. Within the pyramid of light is a circle of crystal chairs, one for each of us. We each take our seat in our crystal chair, which immediately conforms perfectly to the shape of our body. At the center of the circle is the violet flame of transmutation, which you can call upon at any time if there is anything you wish to release, transform, or transmute in any way. Hanging down from the apex of the pyramid is a very large double-terminated crystal with rays of creator light emanating out from the crystal, filling the pyramid with creator light. And now, in the company of all light, all love, Supreme Creator, Mother, Father, God, and all my guides and helpers, I call upon Yeshua to come forth and to communicate to us today through me, and to bring his blessings, his help and guidance in whatever way he is so moved. And I thank him in advance for being with us today. Hello, dear ones. This is Yeshua. I am here. Thank you for your call upon me. Thank you for your openness to my help and guidance. I understand that there is a focus for today upon the sacred masculine. I am very happy to communicate about this with all of you. There is great change in your world today. Many of you are feeling it. It is happening on many levels, happening in many domains and arenas. It is not a new change. This is a continuation of a process that has been in process for quite a while in the earth, on the earth. And yet, within this process, there are moments, pivotal times, when You might say you have reached critical mass with certain aspects of this process, and in some ways this is such a time. And it has a great deal to do with the sacred masculine. You see, for a very long time, the masculine has been operating in your world primarily and predominantly in a certain fashion. Some of you refer to this as the patriarchy. It has involved part of the larger process of the exploration of power that has been a central focus of humanity in your manifestation in the 3D realm. And this exploration of power has taken a certain form relative to the masculine, which has been characterized by an exploration of a certain kind of dominance, dominating other groups, which has included the feminine, but also has included other groups as well. And this dominance has taken the form of largely of physical power and mental power, used in various ways. And at this time, there is an opening to shifting. You might say that for many, this exploratory period relative to the masculine and power has fulfilled itself. That you have been in a learning process, you meaning humanity altogether. And for many of you, there is a completion coming in, a fulfillment of this learning process, such that you are now feeling dissatisfied. And again, when I say you, I am not speaking to you as an individual, any one of you. I am speaking to you as humanity. You are feeling dissatisfied with this old form of holding power, and it particularly being held by the masculine, predominantly. You have come to the place of seeing its limitations, seeing the places that it is not serving you as well as others. And there is a searching and an openness to growth beyond this form and the limits of this form. You who are taking this class, you who are listening to my channeling, are probably quite aware of this. You probably feel this in yourself to some extent or other. It's probably a part of what has drawn you to be involved in this course, this material, and to be listening to me today. And I thank you for that. I thank you for your growth, for your consciousness and awareness. You who are conscious at this time are the leaders. You may not feel like a leader. This is often a sign of a leader as well. But you are the leaders. And there are many ways of leading. First and foremost, leading involves leading yourself. It involves growing yourself to something greater and manifesting this within yourself. And this is always the most powerful form of change there is, because all of you constantly transmit, send out to your world the frequency associated with your consciousness. And so as you change your consciousness and as you adapt your being to that change, as you adapt your actions, your mind, your being all together to be in alignment with that change, your frequency changes. And the frequency that you emit is powerful. You are all powerful beings because of this. This is why your own change is always the greatest work you can do. This frequency will also change what you are manifesting in your life, and part of your life is your greater world. As you shift more and more into higher consciousness, and that is reflected in your world, this will be part of you shifting into the fourth dimension. And this growing awareness that you are creators, that you create your reality. And that as such you have power and also responsibility. Of course, you have been creators in the third dimension too, but it has been a more rudimentary form of creation. You have created primarily through physical means. Now you are moving into higher forms of creation through the mind, ultimately through consciousness, and integrating this with your emotions. And this too has to do with the sacred masculine. Because the sacred masculine must be integrated with emotions to be fully in one's power. And this is part of the shift in your world beyond the old forms, which again you may call patriarchy, because this excluded emotions. It excluded the feminine as part of powering over, trying to maintain power, control. And as part of that, it was an exclusion of emotions. And this is part of the change in manifesting the sacred masculine, one of the most important parts of the change. I understand that you have been, you may say, studying, considering all of this with Mercedes' teaching and guidance, leadership. And so perhaps I will not say more about that at this time, but go into your questions and see how I may help relative to the sacred masculine. But before I do that, there is one more thing which I wish to add. The sacred masculine is extremely important in your world right now. Extremely important. There are elements in your world that are animating the old forms of power and control, dominance of their group over other groups. This is a call for the sacred masculine to stand up and claim its power in your world. It is a kind of a challenge, a test, and it is an important one. And so I feel a certain I'm not sure how to describe it, urgency around this, around the sacred masculine coming forth. This is very important at this time. And the true sacred masculine will be embracing the sacred feminine, of course. And this is why it was necessary for the sacred feminine to become strong first. This process is not complete, but it is certainly underway and has a foundation at this time in your world. And this has created the opening for the sacred masculine. And now, the sacred masculine must come forth and shine in all of you, especially those manifesting in male form, but also in those manifesting in female form in a different way. You cannot, as a female, be truly united with the sacred masculine in a male until you are united within yourself, with your own sacred masculine. And that is your work. So this work is highly important. And I thank all of you for your interest, your openness to engage this and invoke that it make a difference, a profound difference for all of you and for your world. And now with that, I turn to your questions. So this is Mercedes, and the first question is, as you went through your personal vision quest or initiation, the 40 days you spent in the desert, were there mentors who guided you aside from God? I went through many initiations. I was guided by many divine masters manifesting on earth. This is what is sometimes referred to as the lost years, which I find rather humorous because there was nothing lost about it. I was blessed to study with many in many different traditions and forms, beginning in my adolescence and going through my early adulthood. And within that time, I had many initiations and many mentors who I am so grateful to and hold the profoundest love for. That part of my history was not recorded because those who chose to record my story had their own motives, and including this did not serve their motives in their opinion. It is unfortunate it was not recorded. I was never secretive about it. What was recorded was my time in the desert. What was also recorded was my baptism by John the Baptist, my dear beloved brother. And you might look at that as the final initiation that I went through, which was directly with God. Of course, at a certain point of your awakening, you will realize that there is only God. From my perspective, all my initiations were with God. But there were not other humans at that time in the desert. It was a time directly between me and the Great One. And in many initiation processes, this is the culmination of initiation. Very similar. Perhaps a different outer form, perhaps not so different. The outer form is simply whatever supports. The true initiation is in the heart and the consciousness. And so the form does not matter, except to the degree it supports or interferes with the true initiation. Thank you. Here's the next question. How do you feel your personal growth evolved through the sacred masculine archetypes? And this is the archetypes of the warrior, the magician, the lover, and the king. In my case, it perhaps is different than for most of you on the earth. I came in already knowing my life purpose and not forgetting it. I came in with great stability of already having mastered many domains. Of course, there was the natural development of a being. I was manifest as a human, and there was a natural development of childhood and adolescence into adulthood, and I was not exempt from that, and yet at the same time, I had the ability to remember who I was and my gifts that I had already developed. And so in my case, it was in that way perhaps different, that I could always draw upon my gifts and my strengths prior to incarnating here. And I still had the developmental processes going on side by side that human beings in general go through if they are developing fully, which tends to start with the warrior process, initially being guided by elders, and then more and more integrating the magician aspect along with the warrior, bringing in the lover archetype in a foundational way, even in the early years, through integrating emotional mastery and having that expand out into the relational sphere, in the natural way that it does for humans, first within the family, then within friendships, and eventually within love relationships. And all of this contributing to the full integration of the king within oneself and in the world when appropriate, according to one's soul path. For me, my soul path was most definitely to animate the king archetype, which of course included all of the other archetypes, including the lover as well. For me, I manifested with my divine counterpart, what many of you call a twin flame, Mary Magdalene. And of course, we manifested the love relationship between us, which brought me into the fullness of the lover archetype. This too was not acceptable to those who recorded my story in various forms. And so this too was largely changed or excluded. And that also is unfortunate for all of you. But the truth cannot be banished or changed, ultimately. And the truth is coming out at this time, partly because all of you are ready for it and in need of it. This is always the greatest impetus for change. It is a form of calling forth the divine and the truth of the divine through asking for it. And perhaps the asking is not conscious or outward. It may be an asking at the soul level. But we certainly hear it. I hope that has sufficiently answered that question. Thank you. This is Mercedes again. The next question is, what are our next steps to integrate and honor the divine masculine and feminine in our lives? Well, of course, there are many things to do because this is the biggest focus of growth for all of you at this time. But if I were to focus on the next steps for most of you, it is to come to know your own emotions. Most of you are quite divorced from your own emotions, which is your own internal feminine. This has been programmed into you by your culture, including your earliest teachers, which was generally your parents. And there were reasons for doing this, which relates to my initial statements I made relative to patriarchy and power and control. Divorcing all of you from your emotions is a superb strategy for making you very weak and easy to control. And so now, many of you are starting to suspect, through one avenue or another, that it is valuable and important that you reclaim and reconnect with your emotions. And this is absolutely the case. And this is true for women as well as men. Even most women who consider themselves emotional spend the majority of their lives being out of touch with their emotions. And often the emotions that they do tend to animate are a screen for their deeper, truer emotions, a kind of a mask that for one reason or another they have developed comfort with. And so it is their form of expressing that they are having some feeling, but it is not necessarily the one that they are animating. This is true to a certain extent with men as well. For men, it is often anger that they animate, while the true emotion may be something else. For women, it is often sadness, while again, the true emotion may be something else. But most of you don't even tend to animate those emotions most of the time. Most of the time, you simply cover up with your thinking, and you go into your mind as a defense against feeling your emotions. This must change. Not only for you to be connected to your sacred feminine, which the emotions represent, but also to move forward with your sacred masculine. Because the work in the sacred masculine now, by and large, for all of you, is the work of the lover. And the lover is in love with the feminine. And how can you be in love with your inner feminine if you don't even see her, know her, make space for her, acknowledge her? And so the next step is connecting with your own emotional life. And for the masculine, this tends to be quite a scary step. And so it takes great strength to acknowledge that you have emotions other than the commonly accepted one of anger. It takes great strength to say that you are afraid and to show it. It takes great strength to acknowledge that you have sorrow, regret, hurt. Some men refer to this as vulnerability, and is first and foremost vulnerability to yourself, to who you are. And so this next step for the sacred masculine for most of you is to hold space for your own emotions first and foremost. And when you become strong in that, you will start to be able to hold space for the emotions of others. You must actually become serious about this. Not just the rare time when some feeling is so strong that it breaks through your defense system. This must become a practice, an ongoing, moment-to-moment practice, where you become reconnected ongoingly with the feminine within. This will change your world immensely, personally and globally. This will bring you greater strength than you can ever imagine. And so this is your next step. It is not the final step. But it is your next step, and a very important one. There are so many times in your world where beings, individuals get triggered, and their trained response is to come back with their mind. It is the warrior fighting back and the magician elevating it to the level of mind rather than a physical fight. But this is the old way, and it will no longer serve you or your world to be limited to this. You must go beyond this to the lover, to first and foremost holding space for your feelings that were triggered, and to integrate that with your warrior, with your magician, and then to be the king and to be in choice how you will best respond from the highest place. I hope this has been clear, because this is so important, and again, for women as much as men, and perhaps more so for women, because women have been called to be the leaders at this time, and this is the exact area you are being called to be a leader in. To be an emotional master, which first and foremost requires you to know your emotions, to know that landscape, to not shirk away from it, but to be fully embraced, engaged in it, and a master of it. This is the work for men and women. Thank you. The next question is, how can my divine masculine best support my feelings and emotions? I sometimes seem to shy from them automatically, and it takes time and reflection to connect to them. This is similar to what I was just speaking about. Your divine masculine, your sacred masculine, must hold space. You might think of it as a sacred circle that the feminine is within, that protects the feminine, that supports the feminine, that is there, that is present for the feminine, and does not leave. Especially does not leave until the feminine is resolved with whatever emotions the feminine is experiencing. It may be helpful to think of what you very likely wanted from your father when you were young and going through an emotional time. When I say that, I want to be clear that I'm not speaking about what you actually experienced, which may have been very different, may have even been painful or harmful in some way. I am speaking about what you would have liked to have experienced. A kind of protection and holding. This is what your inner masculine, the sacred masculine, is being called to for all of you. This is your, as I said, next step. It is a very sacred step. It is what you might think of as being modeled or shown by the story of the knights of the Round Table, protecting those who are part of the kingdom, including women. It is your own strong inner masculine, sacred masculine, holding space of presence, safety, support, for your feminine and especially your emotions, that aspect of your feminine. Thank you. The next question, which is from a woman, how can I best support men's emotions and feelings, even when they deny them? This is an important question. The most effective way is for you to be in your feminine. If you move into your masculine, telling a man what he should be feeling or doing, or he senses that power dynamic, it is very unlikely he will respond from his masculine and from the lover aspect of his masculine and open to his emotions, because this requires great safety for a man to do this at this time because of the fear connected with this. And so you create safety by you staying in your feminine position first. If there are any feelings coming up for you, it is important for you to first express your feelings. This creates greater safety for the man. And then you can make use of the process that Mary Magdalene has brought forth of the Magdalene Heart Path, which Mercedes has been sharing through her teaching work. And this is to make a guess of what the man may be feeling. But it is very important to pair it with what Mary Magdalene has called the inner divine qualities. Because the inner divine qualities are more masculine aspects and will also provide safety for a man if you are asking him to connect with his emotions when they are paired with inner divine qualities. So the masculine is, you are presenting the feminine paired with the masculine in that case. This will also support men to have the safety they need to open with you to their emotions. And there are certain forms of emotion that feel more safe for men to acknowledge. They tend to be more muted descriptions of emotions. So these more muted forms of emotions are things like feeling disturbed, feeling annoyed, feeling confused, feeling cautious, feeling stressed. Those kinds of things. For example, instead of saying, "Are you feeling afraid?" you might ask, "Are you feeling worried or concerned?" This is something that provides more safety for a man to acknowledge and open to in general. If you know the man well and know that they are comfortable with relating to stronger emotions, such as fear, such as sorrow, then it may be supportive of them to guess those kinds of emotions, but it is something to be conscious of. And that if you are not getting the response you want, it may be because you are using vocabulary that is not speaking to the masculine as strongly as other choices might. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you. The next question is from a man. How can we best carry forth this understanding of the sacred masculine to share with our adult brethren? This is a very important question. Again, it begins with you. It begins with your demonstration, your strength in showing yourself as the lover, which means, first and foremost, showing your own emotions. This can be strengthened through doing this in groups with other men, especially groups that are continuing over time, where men can build safety and trust with each other. You can also do a similar thing to what I was describing in the last question, where a woman was asking, how can women support men in expressing feelings? You can do this as well with other men. But you must be sure that when you do it, you are doing it from a heart space of wanting to support the lover in them, as opposed to a power over space of wanting to somehow demean them, take their power away. You can also model being a protector of women, including that you model and demonstrate holding space for women's emotions, listening to women, valuing their perspective. You can model this in a way that affects other men, or share your experiences of doing this with men. This is part of the lover aspect, is that men need to start to value communicating with other men about things that are really important to you and that touch your heart, things that you have feelings about. This is very important. Sharing your challenges with other men. Learning what it is to mourn when you have regret with other men. This is a great strength. And also how to celebrate when you have successes. If men can learn to do this without inebriating themselves with alcohol or drugs or TV or sports, this will be even a greater and more powerful means, a much more transformative means. Thank you. The next question, how can we best inspire, guide, advise, and mentor the youth of today as they transition from boys to men? This is extremely important. You can make much greater change in this arena than any other as you work with the young people, because they are not set yet in their patterns, they are open. It is very important that from a very young age, you communicate to boys that all their feelings are important and manly. This is beginning to be accepted in your world, especially among those who are more conscious and aware. This is very important. It is very important that men show their vulnerability, their full range of feelings to boys. It is very important that men spend time with boys. It is very important that men recreate a men's culture that boys can be initiated into in their adolescence. And this is a creative work for men to do at this time. Adolescent boys desperately need mentoring and modeling from the elders, the magicians, the wise ones. They need tests, they need requirements, they need guidance in what the values of the men's culture are. They need to be inspired to grow into something greater than themselves, and they need to trust it because they see this in the men around them. This is extremely important work that could transform your world. Thank you. The next question is, can you help me to understand why some women in higher management positions talk and act in an aggressive manner when communicating, and why these interactions tend to become defensive? This is because women are being asked to operate in a men's environment, in a masculine environment, and they are overwhelmed by it. And so their feminine is trying to protect themselves. And it is not very effective or productive. What they actually need is what all of you need at this time, the strengthening of the masculine lover within themselves. They need to love themselves in that moment, to hold space for their feminine within, from their own strength of their inner masculine as lover. And then your work situations need to change. They need to create space and support for this. This takes higher consciousness of those who are creating the structures in your work situations. So you are seeing a change of women coming into leadership roles, what you could call the sacred masculine king roles, that is not a complete change yet because it does not embody the sacred masculine as lover yet. And this is true of your world in general. And so you will continue to see this until the sacred masculine as lover is integrated into your world, including your work situations. And if that happens, there will definitely be changes in the structure that will accommodate that. It does not work for women to be inserting themselves into a structure that was created not only to support the masculine and men in general, but also to suppress the feminine. And sadly, this is the case still in most situations in your work world. And so the structures must change. And of course, when you do that, you will see benefits for everyone, including the work that you are trying to accomplish, which will be accomplished more fully, more productively, more enjoyably for everyone. But this is a process, and your world is shifting and hasn't adapted to this fully at this stage for the most part. This is Mercedes again, and this is our final question. I have an ongoing challenge in my relationship with my husband. We've been married for 20 years, and throughout this time, we've been financially supporting his adult daughter. I think her behavior has been manipulative. My husband has said that he feels intimidated by her and feels guilt over the past when he separated from his first wife. I believe in self-responsibility and living within your means, so my husband and I have clashed over our differing views. Can you help me to understand my husband better regarding his choice to financially support her and why he feels intimidated? How can he and I handle this situation better in the future? Well, there is a great deal to this question. First, I would say that this appears to be one of your soul choices in this lifetime to come into. In other words, you chose this situation because it would provide growth for you. But most likely you do not remember that you chose this prior to incarnating in this lifetime. And you are now looking at it as a problem that needs to be solved. And most likely looking at it as something, an obstacle towards your happiness. Because at the third dimension, most people feel that the purpose of life is to make them happy in the third dimension. It is possible to be happy in the third dimension, but not by perfecting the third dimension. This is the secret to being happy in the third dimension. And so it appears you are holding on to certain beliefs that are supporting your position of rightness. And this is creating your pain. Your pain is not being created by the choices of your husband. It's being created by your maintaining your position of rightness and holding on to your beliefs to support that. You could call these beliefs, you could call them judgments. They're ideas that are holding on to your position that you are right. And this is the masculine power struggle way. The magician tells you you are right, and your warrior fights for it. So if you want to go beyond it, you must go into the masculine archetype of lover, just as I have been talking about. First and foremost, you must love yourself. And this is not the same as saying you are right and entrenching yourself in fighting for your rightness. That is actually what one does when they are afraid. So your first love of yourself is to acknowledge your fear, that you are afraid of being overpowered by your husband and probably by your stepdaughter as well. So bring your sacred masculine to yourself, not to be the outer warrior fighting your husband and fighting your stepdaughter. Become the lover and first and foremost of yourself. Acknowledge your emotions, that you are afraid. You may be afraid about the money. You may be afraid that there won't be enough to support your well-being and your husband's well-being. But very likely you are more afraid about not having the love that you want, about your husband loving your daughter more than yourself. And so you must hold space as your own inner lover for your inner feminine, your fear in this situation. And let that fear take you to the qualities my beloved Mary Magdalene has expressed, what she calls your inner divinity, the part of you that needs love, that needs security around finances, even survival. So love and security is probably what you are longing for. And do your inner work to find your love and security in yourself and with God. And then come to this situation. Come to your husband as one who is connected to God in love and security. And this does not mean you will automatically like your husband's choices, but you will be connected to yourself, connected to your divinity, rather than demanding that your husband and the third dimension fulfill you and make you happy. That is not going to come through the third dimension. It is going to come through your connection to God. Find it there. And then bring that to this circumstance, and this is what will fulfill you. This is what will give you the happiness that you long for. And who knows how the circumstance will play out. And so we are complete, I understand, with the questions now. I hope that this has been enlightening and supportive for all of you. And what I wish to end with at this time is a blessing for the sacred masculine. In each one of you and in your world, the true sacred masculine that includes the lover and the warrior and the magician, all integrated through the king in the highest form, connected to God. And so I offer my blessings, as do the other guides who are present with me today, to each and all of you. Blessings to you all. Amen. This is Mercedes, and I offer my deepest heart thanks to Yeshua for all you have shared with us and given to us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to all the guides who have supported us and been with us, thank you. Thank you to all. And now let's take a brief time in silence for integration. And now it is time for us to begin our return to the third dimension. We start by going back into our spheres of light, drawing our etheric energy body completely inside the sphere of light once again. And with our etheric energy body completely contained inside the sphere of light, we now begin to travel. We begin by moving outside the pyramid of light, where we are once again met by Archangel Michael, who guides us swiftly, safely, and directly back to the third dimension and our physical bodies. When we approach our physical bodies from the area in back of our chest, and then we once again begin to re-enter inside our physical bodies, moving forward and forward, coming to the portal at the back of the heart and moving forward through that until we come back to the center of the heart space where the sphere of light comes to rest. And now the sphere of light opens and dissolves, allowing our etheric energy body to expand and resume its full size, shape, and dimension in complete reintegration with our other bodies. Our physical body, emotional body, mental body, causal body, and spiritual body. And we complete this full reintegration with 3 deep breaths, breathing in and out, in and out, and in and out. And now gently beginning to move your fingers and toes, slowly reopening your eyes, coming fully back to this space, this time, this place. And welcome back. I have something that I want to share with all of you. And then I want to open up for if there's any sharing any of you wish to share from your experience of that channeling. What I want to share is at the very end when Yeshua was doing his blessing, that there was a vision that he showed to me of placing a crown on each one's head, a crown of light, and then at the heart, a scepter of light, which was for the sacred feminine at the heart, and the crown was for the sacred masculine, and that he was uniting the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine through this crown and scepter of light for each of you, and then outward for all. So I want to see if there's anything anyone would like to share from your experience or anything that came up for you during the channeling. I'm imagining that you may feel similarly to how I feel right now, which is rather nonverbal and perhaps in a deep space. And so I totally honor that if that is the case.
Thanks, Joy. I was just going to say, I think for me, one of the things that was that really stood out was holding the space for my own emotions first and foremost, and then only when I can do that for myself, then can I do that for somebody else. It's not like a new concept. I think we've talked about it, but it sort of struck me because I think I've been kind of historically trying to do that for somebody else and having trouble doing it, which sort of explains why when I have more work to do on that for myself. Thanks.
Thank you. I have a sense that was very important to Yeshua to be heard about that. Anything else anyone feels moved to share at this time?
It's kind of on the same lines, and I think it's probably the crux of this big message is women being called to be emotional masters, to help. I wrote a divine masculine, the archetypes that we went over, and basically we have to do that within ourselves. That we have to have the I think it's the lover, to me, is the lover energy to hold the space, the lover king, to hold the space for the best interest of all involved. And then we can be maybe more in touch with our emotions and like it came through in the channeling, to hold that for everyone involved. So it's a big, that's a tall order.
Yes. I have been really practicing with this myself because I'm a very emotional person and my emotions are strong when they come up, and really calling upon my masculine, my inner lover, sacred masculine lover, to hold space for me in my emotions. And it's making a huge difference. And this is a new piece for me to realize that this may be why I've struggled so much with being emotional, because I haven't had my strength of my inner masculine lover to hold this space for me, for being emotional. And then, making my choices from there, what I will choose to do. But before going into any action, anything, being with me and finding my inner masculine as lover to support me in that. And I feel very hopeful about this making a big difference for all of us to be able to do this.
Yeah, I just had kind of an example of that happened earlier today, actually, where I was feeling a particular way, and usually what I would do is just override that. I guess use warrior energy and just override it. Where in this case, I decided that it was time to slow down and actually honor that and listen to that, and yeah, it made a big difference. Yeah, thanks.
And lots of us use our spirituality to override it. Those of us on the spiritual path, we call in the magician and we have all kinds of shoulds. I should be forgiving the other person. I should be stronger than this. I should. And what we're doing is overriding ourselves. And this is when we have our, masculine as warrior and magician, and we're not strong in the lover. And this lover step of first and foremost, really holding space and love for what we're feeling, rather than masking it through all the shoulds and the fights, the fights on all levels. Anything else anyone would like to share?
Yeah, this is Maria, and something that I found helpful, everything, and thank you for the person bringing the example, because it really brought together the teachings into how we can apply it into specific events. But one thing that stands out for me is that we could, in a certain way, when we took the course, all the archetypes fed into each other, and I always thought that the king archetype would always integrate all of them. But I think, if I understood right, was a king could include the warrior and the magician, but leave the lover aside. And that the complete king will include the lover. So I think I can find a lot of examples in which someone is stepping into the king archetype, but not including the lover. And I can see now how that plays out.
Yes, this is our moment of human and spiritual evolution, is that by and large, we have not developed the lover as the sacred masculine. And we're being called to do that now. And the king has been incomplete. And for the king to be complete, we definitely need to be including the sacred masculine as lover. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. So I want to shift and just open up space if there's any last celebrations or mornings for this course before we close and say our goodbye, as this being our last course meeting.
We probably covered this, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I appreciated, obviously your teachings, Mercedes, and everybody's input. It's been very valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mercedes. And there is always a morning when something ends. But I've been learning to transcend that into non-physical connection. It's like we are always connected anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I have a thank you to all of you for sharing this journey with me, and something that is near and dear to my heart that I so strongly believe is the cutting edge of our growth right now. And this has been a wonderful journey for me to share this with you. It's been growthful for me. It's been definitely connecting for me with all of you, and I look at you as my companions on this path and feel very grateful for that. And also that it's been very supportive for me in what I see as my next step of creating the book, of getting this teaching in book form to be able to share it in that way with hopefully much larger audience. And so I thank you for your help in that way as well, and look forward to sharing the book with all of you when it comes out. And yes, I have a warning about saying goodbye. I am sad to let go of this form of connection and celebrating how much I feel love for all of you and gratitude. So with that, I invite everyone to unmute yourself and share our goodbye for now.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Yes, bye everyone.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye and blessings.
Aye. Thank you.